Hi, everybody. Today we want to talk about food. Michael Pollan, who's an expert in nutrition, tells us to eat food, not too much, mostly plants. It's good advice. The truth about food is that the USDA, whose organization tasked with keeping us safe in terms of food, attempts to help us in managing our calorie intake, trying not to make us eat too many calories. Over the past 3 decades, all people, young and adults, have gained weight, and we know that gaining weight and obesity leads to diabetes, high blood pressure, joint problems, heart disease, and cancers. If we're able to keep our daily intake of calories lower, many of these diseases can be controlled in a much, much better way. Scientists blame foods that have too much fat, calories, and sugar and refined carbohydrates and a sedentary lifestyle of many Americans to that obesity problem. So, what are the good foods? Better foods for Americans are nutrient dense foods. Those are the ones that have a lot of vitamins and minerals, don't have so many calories. The reason we worry about calories is if we consume more calories, calories are just units of energy. If we consume more calories in a day than our body uses, then those calories have to be stored. And the way that we store them is as fat. And fat cells are energy, but when they're stored on our body, they're unused energy that just sits on us. And that causes all kinds of problems. So we want to think about the good foods as low fat foods. They're proteins like fish, chicken, eggs, beans, peas, and low fat milk. We want to think color, so think fruits and vegetables that are brightly colored. That gives us variety and a lot of different vitamins and minerals. And then we want to think of whole grain cereals, breads, pasta, rice, all that should make up the bulk of our food. If we're eating mostly these things, we're going to be much healthier in the long run. What's not good? Think about white foods in general. White rice, white flour, white sugar, mayonnaise, and fats that are like Crisco or lard fat. All those are really not good for us. But all of these really do taste good. So that's one of the things that we have to think about when we're eating. We need to be aware of whether or not the food we're eating just tastes good or if it's actually good for us. Foods that have color are more likely to be nutrient dense, good for us, while foods that are white are more likely to have high calories. Of course, milk doesn't count. Milk is really good for us, so we want to keep that in yogurt. We want to think about those as healthy white foods, and there are others, but the ones that, as a general rule, we can think of white foods generally stay away from. Unfortunately, artificial colors in foods like gelatin and cherry soda don't count. So if you got a food that is artificially colored and you're going to want to take a look at it because odds are it's not really that great for you. Okay, fats. Truth about fats, two kinds of fat are particularly bad for us people: trans fat and saturated fat. Trans fats are not found naturally, they're chemically processed. They're things like margarine and that lard, that Crisco sort of stuff. Um, they're solid, and the reason that they're useful in cooking is they hold baked goods together. So, saturated fats are those fats that occur naturally, like they're in meats, and they become solid when they get to room temperature. So here I have a picture of bacon cooking. We know that that bacon grease, once the heat's turned off, turns kind of solid and whitish. Um, that's why we don't put it down pipes, by the way, because it clogs up pipes, but also um, that clogs up our arteries. And so it's really not good for us. So we want to think about unsaturated fats like vegetable oils that stay liquid. They're better to use than trans fats and saturated fats because they reduce our risk of obesity and heart disease and cancers and things like that. Okay, so cutting through the confusion, The USDA and FDA have attempted to make our lives easier. They say that all companies that make foods have to have a nutrition facts label, and this label just changed not too long ago. These labels highlight calories. So if you're just looking at a label real quick, you want to know how many calories are in a serving, then it's got it there for you. But you got to know what a serving is. A big box of cereal isn't going to tell you how many calories are in the whole box. It's going to tell you how many calories are in one serving. So right above the calories shows you a serving size. And in this food's case, it's 2/3 of a cup. And we say that this container has 8 servings in it. So really, it's got like over 1,600 calories inside the whole box. But one serving, 1/8 of that, is 230 calories. So then you can look down and you see the different values for everything there. We want to think about what is on the front of the box because sometimes those are lies, but the USDA and FDA penalize companies for putting misleading things on the front of the box a lot of times. So, for instance, there are laws about whether or not they can say something is low sodium or low calorie, has to meet a certain threshold. If it's free, sugar free, or fat free, um, then they can't say it's free of anything unless it meets a certain criteria. And same thing with fat content. If it's lean or extra lean, there are certain requirements there as well. So let's watch a quick little video that will help us learn about that food label and how to read it.
The new design of the nutrition facts label is meant to make it easier for consumers to make informed food choices. One of the most noticeable changes is the calories are now in a larger, bolder type.
That can be helpful when you're trying to identify how many calories are in a product.
When comparing calories and nutrients in different foods, you should check the serving size. However, since how much people eat and drink has changed over the years, the food serving sizes are getting a reality check on the new labels.
It may not be an example of what one serving is, but it may be more realistic of what someone really is eating, so they can pinpoint exactly how many calories something has.
The new labels are now required to include vitamin D, potassium, and added sugars. When making healthy food choices, Angie says to
look at the calories. They should look at added sugars. You want to be looking for things that have unsaturated fats and staying away from things that have high saturated fats.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
All right. Also, the U.S. government has myplate.gov. We've talked about this in years gone by. So this is really important information. I like the little thing on the left here because it kind of breaks down like what you could see your day being with food. If you plan ahead with food and you don't get surprised by food, that's where the real successes come in kind of management of weight. So we know that, for instance, in the MyPlate diagram on the right, kind of shows you the proportion of a plate and what we want. Half of the plate should be fruits and vegetables. Protein, a serving size is usually the size of a deck of cards. So that's something to keep in mind. Grains, we're talking about kind of something about the size of, a light bulb or a fist or something like that. A piece of bread is also a serving size of grains. So keep that in mind. We also want to know that there are foods like butter, mayonnaise, chocolate, sweeteners, and sodas that are not good because they have high calorie content and no nutritional value to us. We want to keep that in mind. Have you considered, we consider American food sometimes, but exposing yourself to Asian food, Mediterranean, Latin American foods, all kinds of foods, including vegetarian foods, can improve your variety and the density of the nutrients that your body's getting. Ethnic foods, the reason why they're good many times is because they tend to be grain and vegetable focused rather than meat focused. And that knocks out a lot of those bad fats and calories, increases a lot of the good things like fiber, minerals, and vitamins. So, um, you know, expand your palate there. It can really pay off in your health in the long run. Thanks a lot for listening today.